Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augment Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 246 of the show. Before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of house clearing quick because, well, it's the only thing we know how to do around here, so we might as well do it. So let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to me. It really means a lot to me. You guys constantly take time in your days to download episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel. Whether you like my stupid face or not, my opinions or not, at the end of the day, it's all greatly appreciated, and I really appreciate you. Also, thank you to the Patreon backers as well for supporting the show. You guys are also greatly appreciated as well. And, well, thank you guys as well for coming back and listening. I know that this episode is coming out a little bit later than, normal. I'm just being honest with you guys. This is you guys should be aware at this point, or if you're new here, this is your little introduction to me. This is my final semester at college, so obviously this week has been, getting everything ready with my final classes and things like that, like setting up the projects, setting up the homework assignments and things like that. So that's why the episode schedule is going to be a bit finicky as, we begin to transition into this final semester and, see how things go from here, But I do want to say thank you guys for being patient with me. And to be honest with you guys, this episode is kind of funny and ironic that we're talking about this because we're talking about the Sony Walkman coming back. And why is this important? And in many ways, there are some larger ramifications for this that, yes, aside from the Walkman itself coming back and obviously people being very familiar with the Walkman and, and what it was used in movies and things like that, obviously the movie of Christian Bale that everyone obviously knows, just, I don't even have to say the name, you guys probably already know what it is. But the fact that the Walkman is such an iconic piece of technology when it comes to music and things like that, and the fact that the branding has now come back in the form of new, MP3 players, because essentially that's what these things are, is they're glorified MP3 players, even though they call them digital music players. But what are some of the ramifications of this? Because in my mind, I see something a little bit different that maybe hasn't been talked about, but let's talk about it. So let's actually focus on, the man of the hour, in this case, the Walkman itself. There's different models that have currently been released, primarily the NWZX507 ZX series. That's that $830 Walkman. The NWA105A series, that's a $350. Then they came out with, they call it the Walkman Digital Player, which is, $1,400. And then they have a Signature series, that's a premium version of it, which is $3,700. And then, there's this cheap little digital version that's $75, but, $80 basically. But what I've been noticing, and yes, as I mentioned before, these things are basically just glorified MP3 players because while yes, you can download your own music onto them, you can, use wired headphones and things like that. You can also use streaming services. These are primarily designed to be music players. You're not using this to check Instagram, take photos. No, this is a dedicated hardware solution. And some of the concerns have arisen. That's weird that I'm even using that word, but some of the concerns that have currently cropped up are the fact that, one, these are not designed to push super high impedance headphones based off some reviews people have been talking about. Yes, I think this is more geared towards IEMs or in-ear monitors. So if you have a really nice pair or even a cheap pair of earbuds, then you can also use those if they're wired. Yes, I could give some recommendations, but that's something for another video. But we look at the price ranges, $350, $830, $1,400, $3,700. Some of the main concerns that people are also having that I've noticed based off reviews is that the battery life is, kind of doo-doo butt cheeks, if to be clear with you. it's kind of funny because a side note, I also got this new keyboard. I kind of posted it on my social media, so that's why like I can actually type, and well, I can type and you guys actually can't even hear the keyboard, which is lovely, you know? But when you look at some of the reviews for the Walkman, yeah, the battery life's kind of cheeks, if I'm not lying to you, man. Like, it's pretty bad. Like, I'm looking at some of the reviews right now here. I'm actually pulling it up because the main concern is obviously the battery life. They're saying like, what was it? I was trying to find like the specific amount that they said. Like, some people were like, yeah, people were saying like maybe like around, like, I don't know how this is accurate. Like, some people were saying 3 hours. So, hey, don't quote me on that. This is like obviously based off our review and things like that. And yeah, there's some people that are very happy with it, you know, because obviously it's a high-res music player. The fact that it has 4.4 millimeter balanced and 3.5 millimeter unbalanced. If you're not an audiophile, it is perfectly fine. You don't have to know. This is just technical jargon. But yeah, some people have been like messing around with them, seeing what they can drive and things like that. Like primarily like around the 56 to 35 ohm range is what people have been testing it with. So, you know, nothing too crazy. But like I said, these are obviously not meant to drive, like prime example, my Sennheiser 6XXs, which those are 300 ohms of impedance. It ain't got the juice for that, homie. Like, yeah, it don't got the juice for that. But obviously the fact that since these suckers run on Android, yes, that's the main reason you probably want to use this. The fact that you have access to Bluetooth and things like that. The fact that you can, well, access your streaming platforms and things like that. Micro SD card expansion slot. And you have all this nice jazz, you know, buttons on the side. So tactile, so you don't have to touch the screen. Like the screen is just there so you can see what you're listening to. It's one of those things where, yes, I do believe that these are very niche products. Clearly, I think anybody could have seen this from a mile away. These are clearly niche products. And yeah, there's obviously going to be some downsides with it. The fact that this is obviously targeted towards audiophiles because it says high-res audio and things like that. Like the fact that it promotes like a lot of these specific things that audiophiles care about. But this does have some larger ramifications for the industry as a whole. And what do I mean by that? And what I'm referring to is that consumers are starting to, I wouldn't say go backwards, but what they're starting to do is now separate or disconnect from their cell phones. I say this because as we have noticed, as time has gone on, yes, we have become a much more digitally focused society. Clearly, social media has had a big impact on many people and, you know, how we interact with one another. Same thing with the internet, that as time has gone on, obviously subscription services, we've begun to move away from, say, physical media to digital media, whether it be with, you know, obviously having vinyls and like CDs and things like that, to relying on streaming platforms. Like, heck, even digital, like people used to buy their music digitally and now they could just stream it for like a fee every month and you don't really own it. And same thing goes for, like, look at PCs. Like PC as a service is now starting to become a very big thing with big retailers like Dell and Ace, you know. Like, you're starting to see this transition to services instead of actually owning it. And it's funny because now we're starting to see consumers kind of flip the switch and wanting to make things simpler, like actually trying to own things again. Because while, yes, the Walkman is making a comeback, you can even talk about the iPod. And yes, you guys are probably like, the iPod, what the heck? We haven't heard this sucker in like almost 2 decades. But yes, you can see that the market for iPods is currently, well, kind of having a resurgence. If you look at it on eBay, people are obviously selling like some of the popular iPods. Like if you want to have it for specifically music, like the 5.5 and the 7th generation. Granted, there's no such thing as a 5.5 and 7th generation. What it really is just the 5th generation, the first revision of it, and the 6th generation, its second revision. So that's why they just call them the 5.5 and the 7 because it's just easier to remember. But you're starting to see how a lot of people are starting to buy iPods nowadays and using them as music players because, one, they have headphone jacks, and primarily if you're going to buy an iPod, people say that audiophiles swear that the 5.5 has the best audio quality because of, you know, the Wolfson DAC. You know, I'm going to find out. Like, I personally have both of them here in front of me. I have the 5.5 and the 7th in front of me, so I'm going to be testing that out personally. But we're starting to notice that consumers are wanting to have control of their stuff again, like that they want to disconnect, like have a more simple life, if that makes any sense. Like, yes, it kind of sounds stupid because it's like, well, we have smartphones, we have Bluetooth on these things. Why would you, and we have streaming services, why would you want to have a dedicated music player? And for some people, it makes sense. Like, they don't want to deal with streaming services. They don't want to deal with ads. They don't want to deal with the things that come with having a smartphone, because yes, it is your smartphone. It can do other things. Sometimes some people just want to disconnect and only just focus on their music and just, well, read a book or go for a walk and not have to deal with constantly getting pinged on their phone or their watch or whatever it may be. You know, like, you want to be able to disconnect. And if you look at even the things like the iPods, like, yes, these things are older, clearly they are, but the modding scene and the fact that the parts are so readily available that you can make your own custom iPods, you can even put Bluetooth on these suckers and you get great experiences. The fact that, yeah, they're still, I'd say, decently expensive, like around $100 to $150 depending on the condition you find them in, but you can easily mod them out for like $40 and then you're off to the races, you know. And then you have like a really good music player that's easy to repair. You can, you know, replace the battery, they last a long time, and they're good audio quality. And yeah, if you want to get into IEMs, it's also a great option. So we're starting to see how, not only with just the Walkman, but I genuinely believe that we're gonna start seeing this trend where it's not going backwards, it's just trying to take control of things that we used to be able to own, which is physical media. Like, yes, people used to like owning their stuff. Like, this is why I always struggle when it comes to things as a service, because while yes, it is convenient, consumers are also starting to become more and more educated, and they start to realize like, hey, if I can easily fix this, if I can easily do that, this, you know, like, you want to be able to control what you own. Like, it shouldn't be somebody else. Like, if you bought it, then you should own, like, it's yours, you know? Same thing, like the whole thing with right to repair and things like that. But with the Sony Walkman making a comeback, do I think this thing is going to sell like gangbusters? No, I think this is clearly a very niche product that is for a very specific type of users. And yeah, it kind of sucks because the whole battery life issues with it. But I'm not going to be surprised if for the people that like it, like audiophiles and things like that, hey, I'm not going to be surprised if it's a good buy for them. Just saying, like, if they really like it, who am I to tell them, you know? Like, because you guys know audiophiles would dump metric butt tons of money. These homies literally act like they got millions in the bank, bro, which they probably do, because most of them walk around with like super expensive ass headphones that I will probably never own in my lifetime. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you guys care that the Walkman makes a comeback? Do you remember owning a Walkman if you're that old? Or if you, heck, when even you're growing up, did you even use a Walkman? Or have you gone to an antique shop and you've probably seen it? Like, what do you guys think about the new Walkman? Do you think, hey, I think that $800+ range is way out of my league. I think these things are just glorified music players. Or maybe that thing that I mentioned with like looking into iPods and things like that. Do you think that owning your own physical media will find a way to take back, or at least what we try to go towards this digital future, that we're starting to get more and more pushback, that people will start to be like, no, let's hold on to actually owning our stuff? Like, I think that's really the big picture here, is the debate between owning and services. Like, do you want to fully have control over what you own, or, you know, have it as a service and then you don't really own it? So it's like, it's that whole debate of ownership. Like, who really owns this, you know? And I think that's what a lot of consumers are starting to do nowadays. And I think that's why products like this are existing. There's a reason why things like the iPod are starting to make a comeback. There's a reason why like PC as a service is starting to get pushback, and people like building their own PCs and things like that. Like, you start to notice this trend, this pattern, because you're noticing it throughout the whole industry. The whole thing with right to repair, like you look at John Deere losing that lawsuit. Like, there's so many things that are happening, and you just have to, you know, pay attention a little bit more. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think, Josh, I think you're just blowing this out of proportion, bro? I think this is just a stupid media player, and yeah, get over it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, thank you guys for at least being patient with me. I know that it's going to be hectic going forward because of the fact that, hey, it's my last semester. We got a lot going on, you know? Like, I'm still trying to process all of this stuff, but I thank you guys for being patient with me and joining me on the ride. I really do appreciate it. But I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Please be safe. Don't do anything dumb, y'all. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Hey there, thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.